family, welcome back to Reality Check. If you are new here, this is a channel that cares for hearts and minds, and we have conversations around mental health, especially in the areas of marriage, family, parenting, and just overall as a wholesome individual, which is what you should be aspiring to. My name is Racheal Mwine, I'm your host, and as usual, joined by Dr. Evas Will. If you're new here, she is the founder of International Center for Mental Health and Family Care. She's also a trained therapist, and she supports people or individuals in the areas of family, marriage, relationships, and also the workplace. Again, if you are human resource personnel or a people personnel, and you are looking for support for your employees, she is the person to go to. She has an awesome team of therapists that she works alongside, that support people in the workplace who may not necessarily have the time to go find a therapist. Yeah, so she can be brought to you. The services are brought closer to you. And so our contacts or her contacts are in the scroll or in the caption, so be sure to take note of them and make use of them. Our conversation today was prompted by a comment on one of our shows, and I'm just going to read the message, very brief, from somebody called Blessing Sharinda. And she says, "Hello, Rach and Dr. Evas. Please talk about how to heal from a broken relationship." Yeah. And so we want to talk about what that's like, how to heal from a broken heart. And we're obviously making the assumption that this is a romantic relationship, but we do know that there are broken hearts from even platonic relationships. And maybe you might comment on that as we go along. So welcome to the show, Dr.
Thank you so
Evas.
much, Rachel.
Yes. So this is an area that is definitely bound to affect one's mental health and overall well-being, and so it's important that we discuss it. Dr. Evas, why does having a broken heart or a broken relationship feel so final? Like the world has come to an end. I'm curious to hear, obviously, the scientific approach to that question, but also just your thoughts as a therapist.
Okay. Thank you for having
You're
me
welcome.
again, and I'd like to say thank you to our viewers for the feedback, especially that we receive from you. It helps us to know that we are responding
Yes.
to your needs. So, broken heart. Of course, this builds on the conversation we've had in the past,
Yeah.
where we've talked about relational security.
Yes.
Now, this definitely confirms that security, maybe I should start with that, to say that security is a very important need for humanity. We all need security. We build houses, we do everything we can do. We put perimeter walls, we put gates, we reinforce them, we put
Barbed wire.
barbed
That's yes.
wires. What are we trying to do? We need to feel secure.
Yes.
So a sense of security is very important for human health, and overall wellness. Now, we tend to view security from the physical realm, but our spirits, our
Yes.
emotions,
The part you can't
the
touch.
part you can't touch
Yeah.
needs to be protected.
True.
So when it is invaded, it gets, so I want you to view it from the standpoint of, just imagine this gate was off and people came in and they invaded and they ravaged everything, they took things. You stepped out of your sleep and what are you seeing?
Trouble.
So it's the same thing with our emotions. So when we relate, I guess I cannot overemphasize the importance of having healthy relationships. I talked about relational health last time. And we need to understand that relational health is drawn, relational health, relational well-being is important for us as a matter of need, as a matter of necessity. And that's why I've gotten on record for saying that we should avoid casualness
Yes.
in relationships,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you'll ask, where is this coming from? The big part of it is casualness.
Yep.
Now, this casualness, sometimes it's propagated or perpetuated by one person.
That's true.
Another person is serious, and
Yeah.
that's where we get into the broken heart syndrome that we are discussing today. So when we get into relationships, we invest.
Yeah.
We invest emotions, we invest hope, we invest peace, and we want, you remember what I mentioned, that we want this secure. We need to have our
Your
love.
investment secure.
Our love has to be secured.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in one of the episodes, and I want to emphasize this. So when we get in, we are hoping and trusting that someone is going to protect our love.
True.
You see?
Yeah.
So there has to be a gate and a wall to protect it.
Sure.
Otherwise, we are exposed to so much pain, which we are talking about.
Yeah.
And you asked, why do people feel the world has ended? Now, emotions are such a big part of our lives, and they should, and we have to be sensitive once again to protecting them.
Yeah.
So you don't just expose yourself to this. So when our hope is broken, when our trust is broken, when our love is ravaged, then it feels like,
What's the point?
what's the point?
Yeah.
Now, let me also emphasize at the start that we need to understand that we are held from within.
Yeah.
So you've heard me say that 90% of our health is what we call invisible health,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
So we are supported by what we call psychic energy. Now, that psychic energy that we have that supports us, we're not supported by physical energy. No, we don't get our energy from food. No, that's so little. The energy we get on the outside is only 10%. The bigger part of it is that invisible energy and invisible health on the inside. Now, when this is affected, when it is infected, right, that's how we feel the world has ended. Yeah, the world has ended. And so someone would look around and say, but you still have all this, but you still you have a good job.
In the world.
There are more men in the
fish
world.
in the sea,
you see, or more women. Most of the time
More
it's more
women,
women. But the thing is, we have to understand that there is investment, number one, that goes into relationships. And what is this investment? Once again, it is hope.
Yeah.
It is that love, that love you've extended to someone. It is that trust that someone, what are we trusting? That someone will protect us, will protect our love, will secure it. We'll secure it. Please, love has to be secured. Yeah, so that it's not just broken, so that someone doesn't just invade, so that your gate is not open and anyone comes in and takes whatever. So that's why we get completely devastated and shattered, and we feel like there's no hope, because the bigger part of us is that invisible part, which is relational health.
And a huge part of who we are.
A huge part of us, yes.
Oh, you learn something new every day. I know I've heard you say that, but today it makes a lot more sense. That we are food, we are water, but there's that part of us that really is like our essence.
Yes.
And so when that is invaded, like you said, life almost has lost meaning.
It loses meaning.
Yeah.
It loses meaning because this is at spirit level. So that's why you hear people say, my spirit has been crushed. Yeah, so when your spirit has been crushed, the body can't sustain you.
This is true.
That's why you wake up and everything else around you seems normal, but then you can't get out of bed. You have no energy. You feel crushed. You can't hold yourself. So we need to give as much attention to our relational health, that relational health, that invisible health, as much as we do
our physical
health.
Yeah,
you know?
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. And so I think My next question to you then would be, so let's say I've been in a relationship with this man, or man has been in a relationship with a woman. It has ended. Um, I'm devastated. I'm crushed. Like you have just explained, life has no meaning. People think the sky is blue. You're looking at it and it's gray. You know. So moving on or picking yourself up can seem like a nearly impossible task. Yeah. What do you say would be the first thing, and maybe a few other steps to take to now begin to see life again, or to enjoy life again, and to maybe pick up your spirit? Yeah. From a broken relationship.
Yeah, so from a broken relationship, number one is for us to know that any part of our health suffers at a certain point. We don't stay in full health all the
All
time.
the time, yes.
You know,
Yes.
any person listening in will appreciate or will acknowledge that from time to time we have flu, we have this, we
is
have
true.
that. So life is not perfect.
Yeah.
And so when we experience a broken heart, what we call a broken heart syndrome, by the way, we just need to know, it's just a reminder that we are normal,
Yeah.
that happens. I needed to tell you that this is usually a temporary heart condition.
The same way you'd have a flu.
In the same way
Yeah.
you'd have a flu, we also have what we call a temporary heart condition. And of course, no one wants to fall sick.
No.
No one wants to fall sick. When you are asking about broken heart, I think let me make it clear even before I give more details.
Yes.
When we experience what we call that broken heart syndrome, heart cells, it's, by the way, it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so heart cells are stunned by adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress hormones, and so it just gets it's shaken, it's shocked, and when it is shocked, so many things happen because I was reading about it, and I saw that the heart's main pumping chamber changes shape, affecting the heart's ability to pump blood. That is so
Wow,
serious.
that's huge.
Now, we tend to look at health once again from the standpoint of physical, but what helps the heart to function? So when that happens, we get into some cardiovascular dysfunction, and I'm sure any physical medical doctor would tell you that. But this is pushed by how the heart is put to test. And so so number one, now to respond to your question, is for someone to know that, one, this is not just a simple thing, and it's normal, but it's an illness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a condition that needs not to be taken casual. And I'm going to talk about how to manage, and I'm just laying a foundation for that. Because people tend to, number one, the way we behave and relate, you just expose yourself to this. Today you're broken, then you recover, then you're broken, then you get into another area, then you recover. So what I was talking about, this whole moving on, move on, and I talked about this potential broken heart syndrome. Now, we need to know that, number one, it is serious.
Yes.
And so if we have any possible opportunity to protect ourselves, then we need to. But if it strikes, when it happens, then we need to acknowledge that it's that condition, but it's temporal. So I want to emphasize that. You don't want to get, I think they call it heart scars or something. So when it happens, we need to exercise it and manage it, the tips I'm going to share later on, and make sure that we get out of it, and it becomes temporal, so that the cloud passes. You're not in perpetual pain all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
So when it happens, so acknowledge that. That's a very important,
Yeah.
step. The second step is to to grieve. To grieve.
Yeah.
Because again, I mentioned before that when we get into a relationship, we attach.
Yeah.
And that attachment is in the trust, it is in the hope that way, it is in the security, it is that love, that investment that you put in, those releases that you do, right? So we attach.
Yeah.
But then when we detach, it's a loss.
Yeah.
So that's a loss. And when we experience loss, we grieve.
This is true.
So I want to encourage any person that is going through this, don't try to be fake.
Or strong.
Don't be too strong.
Yes.
Make sure that you're not covering up.
Yeah.
Because when you cover up, that's a recipe for more stress hormones in your body. So it's very important to grieve.
Yeah.
So, and I always tell people, give yourself permission
Grieve.
to grieve,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And to fully experience your emotions.
This is true.
So if you're sad, if you're angry, go through it. Now, in the science of grieving, we say the easiest way out of grief is through it.
Yeah, it's a hard truth.
That's a hard truth.
Yeah.
And so you have to experience it. Don't beat yourself up and say, what's wrong with me? How can I be sad? I need to grow up.
Yeah.
I need to be a man. How can a man grieve?
Yeah.
There are so many women. No. No. Grieve because you invested. So any loss, I just, once again, I tell people, we have to view relationships as business.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to give relationships a business a business eye.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to grieve. Grieve and grieve. And remember, it's a temporal position. It's a temporary cloud.
Yeah.
And it will pass, especially when you manage it well.
Yes.
So then the most important thing, two important things I've mentioned, grieve. Allow yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to process all these negative emotions, but process them. Don't trap them. Yeah. Process them. And when you process them, you're going, every time, for instance, we are supporting people with grief, they will present with a number of things: anger, a number of emotions, anger, regret, hate, and fear, and resentment, and all those. And so we go through each. For instance, if someone says, I'm angry, so I will ask them, what are you angry about?
Yes.
And so they say, how did I not see this? There were all red flags and I didn't see this. And so we process that and say, but you invested hope. This is not your problem, and that's going to be my second point. Or you didn't see this coming. We don't live in a perfect world, and so all this happens. So that's number two. Number three, when someone has gone, it's very important to invest in understanding. Right? Yeah. So the natural thing that happens is that when someone breaks your heart, we tend to run into a victim mentality. Oh, me, what's poor wrong with me? Oh, poor me. Self-pity. That doesn't help. Try to understand it. Invest in understanding. Most of the time, someone that has done that, it's about them.
It might be 90% about them. It
might be 90% about them. Now, I don't want to exonerate us so much, but to tell us that in relationships, we don't have perfect people. So you could have gone wrong. Maybe you made wrong judgment. Maybe you also made a mistake. But that's fleeing and breaking your heart. Usually is not the... And it may not be the option they had to undertake. Or maybe they were casual. Or maybe you had different relationship goals. You remember what we talked
Yes,
about.
yes.
It's not uncommon for us to meet people who they are in a relationship, but their relationship goals are just
Very different.
very different
Yeah,
directions. This
yeah.
one is looking at marriage. This one is in just for just.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
for
it
just,
happens
maybe.
a lot.
It happens a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
So when you invest in understanding,
Yes.
understanding your relationship goals, understanding the person you are dealing with, maybe they were hurting. I tell people, hurting people hurt people. We know
others.
this. They
Yeah.
hurt others.
Yeah.
And maybe they were hurting. They had unresolved issues. I mean, there are so many people you meet, and they were moving together. They probably had already progressed with their relationship. They had made it official. They had gone public. But then someone decides to run away. Maybe this speaks to their moral stature. You know?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe they have challenges with accountability, with taking responsibility, with commitment.
Yep.
Now, when that happens, when you invest in understanding, it's going to help, just the way the Word of God tells us that we shall know the truth, and truth shall set us free.
Yes.
So don't run to self-pity. No, that's more pain. Check what is happening. Or maybe you weren't ready.
Yeah.
You yourself.
What's your part in
What's your part in this?
Yeah.
Or maybe you caused this. Does that mean the end? No.
No.
No, that's a learning point for you. We always talk about this, and let me also smuggle it in. Having what we call a growth mindset.
Yes.
You know, life is experienced. So if you look at it that way, and you check, you say, oh, maybe I don't think I was up to the challenge of relationships, maybe, you know, this and that. There's power in maybe.
Yeah.
There's power in maybe. And so, but this comes from deep reflection. So invest in understanding.
I like that.
Very important.
I like that.
So when you find that that person probably had challenges, or you yourself, convert, reframe it and let it be a point of learning for you. Life hasn't ended.
No.
It hasn't.
Fact,
I don't want to get into the casual thing of there are so many men or so.
No.
I'll not get into that, but that's a learning point.
Yeah.
It might be better for your relationship. Your next relationship, or even bettering the same relationship. Who knows? Maybe. But once again, life is experienced, and let's use every opportunity. The other important point is when someone has broken your heart. Boundaries. Boundaries are very important. And I look at boundaries in 3 ways. Number 1, thought. Thought boundaries. Guard against your thoughts, or guard your thoughts. Because when someone has experienced pain or a broken relationship, we are vulnerable, very vulnerable. And we plunge into what we call the challenge, or the temptation to fill in the gaps. So you create a mental page and put questions, and you have gaps, and then you keep answering. Will I ever get another one? No. We have to know that you're very, very vulnerable at this point, and any thought is going to make sense.
That's true. Yeah,
so we have to guard our minds and guard our hearts, so that, you don't just attract all this and everything seems to make sense. So it's very important to set boundaries. And when we are doing therapy, we encourage people, please challenge your thoughts. Challenge your thoughts. Not every thought that comes is going to be valid.
And should find space in your head.
No, some of them are just coming in so that you consider them. But that vulnerability, people have to be aware of that. Okay. The second area where one needs to set boundaries is with the people they meet or they talk to. Very, very important. Don't just don't throw yourself in the mud. Again, let me use an experience from physical health. You don't get into muddy places with an open wound.
No. No.
You see,
Yeah.
so when we have open wounds, we protect them. We
Protect
put.
them, cover
So you
them.
have to do emotional plaster. Put emotional plaster, and make sure that you protect yourself. I really want to emphasize this point. Again, there's a lot of vulnerability because when you're hurting, all the emotions are everywhere. You're likely to feel desperate to talk to everyone and allow everyone in.
Yep.
So it's very important to set
Protect.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Don't withdraw, don't isolate, but make
Be
sure that you
careful.
set boundaries. You know what someone is supposed to say to you. Remember, if you share with so many people, there is a temptation for everyone to want to give you advice.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and the advice may not be very
It
great
may not
advice.
be. Yeah, so I guess my point is, don't take your emotional wound into the mud. But the other area of boundaries is set boundaries with the person that has hurt you.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries with the person that has hurt you. You need reflection.
Yeah.
Don't be desperate. Don't plunge into appeasement.
Yeah.
You
In the
know,
hope that they'll take
in the
you
hope
back.
they're going to take you. You're going to
Yeah.
lose respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell people, please exercise some dignity. Preserve your dignity in the midst of this, because there is a temptation to be desperate, and it feels like, my God, this. That's how people commit suicide.
That's true.
Because they feel like there's only one person in the world, and
For
this is the
me,
person.
yeah.
And if they do this, then the whole world did. No, those are mental distortions. So it's very important to have hope.
Yeah.
And to see yourself in the bigger picture. Don't narrow your world. Your world can't just be around one person. Yeah, I mean, I say this now, and I don't want to sound unreasonable, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, don't narrow your options to just one
human
person, and so
being.
this
Yes.
person, now that they've disappointed you, then you deserve to die.
No.
No.
That's a lot of power to be
Now,
a
that's a
human
lot
being.
of power. You're really
Yes.
empowering one
One
person.
person.
Really, don't empower them. I'm not,
Yeah.
please, I'm not,
You're not
I'm not,
downplaying
no, I'm not downplaying
yeah.
the pain. Nor am I setting people up to go and run and chase other people. No, 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 that's not what I'm saying. But if this person shows you, we always say that if someone shows you their true colors, please don't try to repaint them.
Yes, yes.
You know, maybe they don't deserve to be in your life.
Maybe that goes back to the understanding, yeah,
It
and
does.
reflection.
And reflection.
Yeah.
Maybe God is saying something to you now.
Pivot, yeah. Move to a
We
different
say better to
direction.
deal with a broken relationship than a broken marriage
Yeah,
later on.
yeah.
Maybe it's a broken marriage that you are even talking about here.
Maybe.
But even then, life is so precious. Every other day we wake up to preserve life,
Yeah.
because we are here for a season, and off we go. And so don't be pushed to a place where you have to be super desperate that you're going to take your life. No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you have to protect yourself. Protect yourself from this person. And if you need to, maybe you haven't cut off the relationship completely, but also try to step back and reflect. Step back, because every time you go with pain, both of you are in pain, you're likely not to make good judgment.
That's
So
true.
it's very important to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Of course, self-care.
Self-care. Yeah.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries is part of self-care.
Yes, true.
But also, remember that whenever someone is dealing with a broken heart, there are so many things that happen. Our entire health is disorganized, and your physical health is compromised. There are actually a number of symptoms that are similar to heart attack. You know, and
I've
so
actually had that before.
yes, because your low blood pressure. What else? Low blood pressure, short breath. You know, I mean, all these symptoms of a heart attack. And so you have to know that your health is so at risk.
Yeah.
And so you have to be deliberate to taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so and of course, again, as a psychologist, I'll tell you, life loses pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our pleasure center is affected, and so everything that feeds on pleasure is affected.
Yep.
And so you don't have appetite. So you have to eat on purpose. You have to drink on purpose. You don't have to wait to have appetite to be, to eat.
You might wait long.
You might wait longer. And so self-care is important. Stepping out and using what we call nature therapy. This is powerful, very powerful. When you're suffocated on the inside, it feels bad. So you have to step out, look around, look at the horizon.
Taking the fresh air.
Taking fresh air, but also nature therapy, plants, and that's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And that, of course, that widens a person's horizon. You're not just closed in.
Yeah.
And so that's very important. And of course, finally, I want to emphasize the importance of seeking professional therapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this entire process that you have shared, because a lot of people don't know how to reflect on the bad relationship. They don't know how to seek understanding. It's like, where do I begin? All I see is a bad person who has hurt me so much, and I just want to revenge.
And we ask, what's wrong with them? But we don't get an answer.
We don't get an answer. And so if you are struggling with understanding, I think coming to find, professional help, just to help you through the process. You can come at whatever stage you are at, but come anyway. Say, I'm angry, this and this has happened. What do I need to do? Because I don't like where I am. Yeah.
Really, I want to emphasize it so much, Rachel. Professional therapy. This is what professional therapy helps you with. And I always tell people it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
But professional therapy helps you, number one, to understand yourself. Yes. There's so much we need to understand about ourselves. That's what we call self-awareness.
Yeah.
It helps you. Unfortunately, people come from one broken relationship with so much pain, and they take that emotional baggage to another relationship.
Yes.
A relationship is broken today. 2 days later, someone has another person on the inside. Now, that's what we call trauma attachment. So when you just, you're still hurting, then you're attaching to another person and you say, oh,
I feel better.
I feel better, I've gotten you. You see, that is trauma attachment.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't help because you're going with unresolved issues. And you have gone in without understanding what could be your contribution, what you need to change, or what another person needed to change to be a better person, or even understanding your own expectations in a relationship. So I want to emphasize, please seek professional help. You need to do self-discovery.
That's true.
It's very important to know who you are in a relationship.
This is true.
Very important. That's what therapy helps you, number one. Number two, it helps you to gain what we call social awareness. It helps you to understand people. What I was talking about as understanding. Sometimes we don't have the ability. Probably this person had adversity or childhood adversity. They had family background issues that affected them, and they are also hurting. They didn't mean to hurt you, but they are hurting. And so when you understand this, then you manage your expectations. But also, maybe their values are totally different from yours. What you consider unacceptable, they consider it acceptable, right? Or they have a different personality. Do you know people conflict? We conflict. They may not take this far away from me.
We conflict.
We conflict.
Yeah.
We conflict in relationships because of differences in personality. And it's just because we don't know. Someone is analytical in thinking, you're impulsive in thinking, but you're married.
Yeah, so how do you get along?
Or you're dating. So how do you get along? How do you how do you understand that you actually, your conflicts were rooted in differences in personality?
Yes, yes.
You see?
Gaining that understanding.
Yeah, gaining that understanding is
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
And so when you're managing this whole brokenness, then it's important for you to understand yourself. How do you process thoughts? How do you reflect? How do you communicate? How do you manage relationships generally? And how do people manage relations? So it's very important. Therapy is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
We do what we call psychoanalysis, which helps people to discover why they behave the way they behave,
That's true.
why other people behave the way they behave. You see, but most importantly, therapy helps to equip people with what we call relational skills.
Yeah.
And I must emphasize here once again that uh, relationship management is about skills. It's skill. Communication is skill. Negotiation is skill. Humility is skill. Everything is skill.
Yeah.
You know. So how do you now? People think I actually when I got married. God bless these people that were helping us. They said, and I think you've heard it, please communicate, please communicate, communicate. Communication is
They
the
didn't equip
bloodline of...
you with the communication skill.
Let me tell you, by the time I was like 5 years in marriage, I hated to hear, I was traumatized by the word communication because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I knew that communication was talking. And I had no problem talking.
Like a lot of other people.
You see?
Yeah.
And the person I had in my life was not a
He's
talker.
not a talker, no. Yeah.
No one told me that because of our personalities, we communicate differently. Because of our personalities, we conflict differently. We manage conflicts differently. And so when you utilize therapy, you are helped to know that sometimes some of the strategies you adopt to solve problems do not help.
Don't help, yes.
They don't help.
Yeah.
Or probably you have personality issues, or probably you have certain issues in your life that need to be managed.
Yes, need to be addressed.
Need to be addressed. And so that's how therapy is important. So as we talk about seeking support, I want to emphasize, yes, please seek support, but be careful where you seek support from. And don't expose your wound to the mud. Seek professional help. That's why therapists have been trained to support you. And I want to emphasize once again that once you do that, you manage it properly, then you're able to, the cloud will pass.
It will.
Very,
eventually.
yeah, eventually, and probably faster than you had hoped.
Yes. Broken relationships are an opportunity for any individual to pivot, to think about their lives, to reflect, to learn something new about themselves. But I think many times we miss the opportunity because we are so focused on either vengeance or moving on quickly. You know, we don't take the time, like you said, to understand, to reflect, find out what your part in this issue was or what the other person's part in the issue was. And so what I hear you saying is you have an opportunity here to learn, you know. And we also know, and you mentioned, you alluded to one of the ways. Are there unhealthy ways that people navigate broken relationships? What are some of them, and how do they eventually affect your mental health, but also who you are as an individual?
Yeah, so as you were posing that question, I just was thinking when we were young, I was very, very close to my father. My dad was my friend. And we used to say, if my dad ever dies, I'll
die. Yes.
I'll die. And eventually my dad passed. But I didn't die. I still hurt, but I didn't die. So I think I've always talked to people about the process of maturation. It's one thing to grow old, but another to grow up. And growing up, or maturation, is a brain issue. And this is hinged on how we experience life. So when we experience life, we get a broader perspective to things. We see many possibilities, and so we are not shocked by the things that happen to us.
Yeah.
And so that's how we develop skills like resilience, right? Perseverance. And those are skills that are not taught in class.
That's
They
true.
are experienced. Growth itself,
Yeah.
what we call growth, growth is about broadened perspective, not a skewed one. Like I've told you, if my dad passes, if my father ever
I'll be
dies,
done,
I'll just
yes.
die. And I think like a few days or a few weeks after he passed, I remember I wished like I could pass as well. But if you ask me now, I don't want.
Yeah.
So that's the same way that we respond to pain. I've mentioned on this show that let me remind viewers that human nature was created to desire pleasure, not pain.
Yeah.
Right? So naturally we desire, but how do we manage pain when it comes? Because it's inevitable. So what people do, we tend, let me be a part of it because I don't want to sound like I'm out of this world. What happens is that we respond to pain by wanting more pain. That's why we want to revenge.
Yes.
That's why. So we want to inflict pain because we are feeling pain. But that's not the art of maturity and growth. And so we are not able to see things properly if we take that natural route. So we naturally gravitate towards that. So if we have to work against it, then we have to,
work really hard.
It has to be hard. Work against a hard tide. So how do people manage? They want to revenge. If you have hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. That's how, when you break my heart, I want to break yours.
Yes.
And so they take to what we call unhealthy coping mechanisms. We see this a lot in unfaithfulness. You've broken my heart. You've gone with someone else. I'm also going to get some. It's unhealthy, and it doesn't help. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't help you to see things the right way, and most of the time it ends in tears because both of you are going the wrong direction, and so revenge. That's why even the Bible the Word of God tells us that avenging is for vengeance is for God.
Yeah.
So once we take to it, we can't manage it well. People kill because of pain.
Yes.
You know, people kill. We quickly break relationships, right? Divorce. We'll have a whole conversation on divorce, and I don't want to risk sounding dismissive, or these are very sensitive matters. Emotional issues are highly sensitive, and I really always want to give them to accord them that seriousness. But I want to tell you, sometimes we make quick decisions even before we reflect. We reflect. We want to make what we call life-changing decisions based on how we feel in the moment. And that's extremely dangerous. It's dangerous because if you do that, then later on we try to work in retrospect, and
it's probably too late.
Most of the time you've made more losses. That's why I encourage people, please don't make, as much as possible, seek help or step back, breathe and open your brain to processing so many things. Don't just close in. But so sometimes we can try to correct one mistake with 10 more.
10 others.
10 others. So many other things happen. So we make what we call life-changing decisions, which can be actually negative and hazardous.
The other, broken hearts happen not just in romantic relationships. We have experienced, I remember you and I had a long conversation sometime about heartbreak in platonic relationships and how we navigated those experiences. And there might be someone watching today who is going through a heartbreak based on a platonic relationship, either between friends or within family, you know. I wonder though, is the process to grieving the same or to navigating the same? I guess what's your comment on broken hearts and
Well,
yeah.
it is the same,
Yeah.
Rachel, because you see, relationships are built on the same principles of trust,
Yeah.
of trust, of commitment, of, security. You expect that someone will reciprocate. You see
Yes, that word.
that, and so when someone breaks our hearts, they've disappointed us.
Yes.
They have, we have. I always talk about the unwritten checklist.
Yes,
You see,
yes.
unwritten checklist, because when I'm talking to you as Rachel, we have a relationship.
Yes, we have an understanding.
We have an understanding.
Yeah.
There is an invisible
MOU.
MOU. You see?
Yes.
Yeah, so that those expectations,
Yeah.
and I honestly can never ever overemphasize the importance of us paying attention to relationships.
Yeah.
Number one, knowing that they give us the biggest part of our
Of our
health.
health, yeah.
You know, human nature is it focuses on interaction, or thrives on human interaction.
Yeah.
And so whatever relationship it is, of course we talked about intimate, we talked about this broken heart syndrome in view of intimate relationships,
yeah.
but it's the same things. It's the same thing. So if I'm relating with you, there is an investment, there's a hope that I've put in this. There's something I expect you to do to me,
Yeah.
and something I don't expect you to do to me. So if it is a sister, you've heard someone say, Rachel, you're closer than a sister. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
It means that I had an expectation to be close to my sister, but they are not close.
They're not close.
So there is those invisible, let's pay attention to invisible checklists, invisible expectations that we have in relationships, and not be casual. Not be casual. Someone expects you, someone has shared, for instance, their deepest secret with you. You go make it a public secret, you see, and then you come and it's okay, and it's business as usual.
How can it be okay?
It can be.
No,
so
not
that
at
the tips I shared earlier,
Yeah.
setting boundaries, not giving someone permission to disrespect you, to hurt you even the more, making sure that, again, you understand them. We have people who cannot hold back.
That's true.
Yeah, so try to understand. Also check the expectations you had on this person. Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Are you sure you understood them before you set those
yes,
expectations?
Yes. Or did you just set them based
Or did
on
you
what
just,
you want?
you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, or were you too quick to share some details?
Deep stuff about yourself.
You know, there's some, there was still, what do we call them? You don't know them enough. You know, you don't just share deep thoughts or deep information with someone you don't know yet.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe you went too fast, or maybe they have challenges. We have friends who, you've had a phrase, frenemies. I've had
Frenemies.
people. I've had
Wow.
people creative. Yeah, there are people who are your friends, but actually, if you checked, if you prayed a prayer seriously and say, God, scatter my enemies, they probably
They might
will
be
move.
among them.
You know, these are people that will never celebrate you.
Gosh, yes.
They will never celebrate you.
Yeah.
They are your friends. Probably you've been together 20 years. But all they know is that they are envious of you. They don't wish you well.
Don't wish you well.
Yeah, so that kind of wisdom to understand that probably they were not friends after all. It's very important to know. And that will protect your heart.
Yeah.
Because if someone who is a frenemy does something unpleasant or treacherous, and they have to leave, then probably they won't, if you understood them, they won't break your heart as much.
They won't. Yeah.
Or if you understood their weaknesses, it won't hurt as much. So it's still important to understand self-awareness, social awareness, utilizing skills. Yeah, and again, don't die in silence, or don't die alone. Don't try to
And
figure it
grieving.
out.
I mean, I know for myself, I have actually had relationships that I've had to go through the process. I like what you said about grieving, and the only way, you see, is it the only way out of it is through
Yes,
it?
the easiest way out of grief is through
Is
it.
through it,
Yeah.
you know. And there are platonic relationships that I have grieved, you know. And
Yes.
sometimes people, we say these things a lot. I don't need her, or I don't need him. You know, let them go have their lives. I
No.
can always move on. But you shared a bond.
That's
you
the
know?
thing, that's being dismissive.
Yes.
That's why I said it's very important to fully experience your emotions.
Yeah.
If you're hurting, hurt.
Yeah.
And you just remind me that it's also very important to speak to them if you consider that it's going to help.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's very important to share how you feel.
True.
It's very important also to hear them out.
Yep.
If they've broken your heart.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make so much assumptions.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we know everything because we are hurting. Maybe if you gave them an audience, they would share with you what happened. Please, I don't want us to leave this episode without talking about the importance of forgiveness.
Yes. Yes.
You see,
Yes.
forgiveness is a tool.
Yeah.
It's not a biblical thing. No. No, it's a tool that God
Yeah.
gave to us,
To
and
navigate
it's a
life.
tool in life, whether you're religious or you're
Or
not. This is a tool in life that we have to use for relationships, because I mentioned that relationships, people fall sick physically, we go to hospital and get injections and get whatever medical treatment we get. For relationships,
Yeah.
this is our treatment.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is a skill as well, and it is a tool that we have been given. Of course, it follows genuine repentance, but we have to know that if we hold on to anger and pain, it hurts us most.
Yeah.
Remember, it
Yeah.
affects our health.
This is true.
Yeah, and it puts pressure on our organs. And so you don't want to hold on to resentment, onto anger, onto unresolved pain. Forgiving someone, forgiveness is for the undeserving.
Say that again, Dr. Evas.
It is for the undeserving. And once you have understood the process I shared earlier, once you understand, and that's why Jesus used it to say, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. They don't know what they are doing. Sometimes the people we are relating with, they don't know what they are doing.
Yeah.
That statement is, by the way, big.
It's very true.
It fits into what we already discussed, that someone is hurting and all. Sometimes they don't know they are hurting you.
Yeah.
And so
they are focused on themselves.
they are focusing on themselves, or maybe they are narcissistic, or maybe, whatever it is, they have a disorder. So you don't kill someone because they have a challenge.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to be willing. And by the way, forgiveness is about willingness. It's not about you doing it.
Wow.
Yes, it's about you have to be willing.
Yeah.
And when you're willing, you're going to do a number of things. I usually use, if we have an opportunity to discuss this area, I'll have my bell. I have a little bell like this.
Yeah.
When you forgive someone, you don't keep reciting their wrongs.
Yeah.
That's why even the Bible talks to us about keeping a record of wrongs.
Yes.
So when we keep a record of wrongs, this one, and sometimes we take pride in it. We say, hey, me, I can't forget.
I cannot.
I can't. And then we are put on pressure to forgive and forget. That's not how it happens.
Yeah.
The moment you release someone, you're willing to say, oh dear, maybe. Maybe, by the way, is a gracious word.
You said there's power in maybe.
There's power in maybe.
Yes.
And when you understand, maybe they did know better. Maybe that power, it takes pressure off you, and then you don't get this urge to recite what this person did. Can you imagine what? No, because you're replacing it with maybe.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So when you do that, it keeps flashing out of your life and out of your heart. And before you know, you're settled.
And you don't hold anything against
You don't
them.
hold anything again. I really pray that at a certain point, those who are listening, you will experience a peace where you You're praying and you're saying, do I hate anyone? No.
I don't, there's no one I hate.
There's no one I hate.
There's no one I have
And
trouble with, yeah.
that comes out of regular practice.
Yeah.
Rachel, I'll tell you, I learned something recently. I went to see my
Specialist.
eye specialist, and he taught me how to exercise my eyes.
Oh, did he?
So I said, you exercise eyes?
How?
He said, yeah. He told me how to exercise eyes. Maybe I could help my viewers
Demonstrate.
demonstrate. So you have to get your glasses out if you have glasses and look at the horizon and stretch. And he taught me, he said, that's how you'll maintain your sight up to old age.
Really?
Right? People need to pay me for this.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Do
Like,
you
you've given
understand?
us such
Yes.
awesome information.
But what it led me, I had a conversation with him, and turns out every organ has to be exercised.
Yeah.
So the heart
Yeah.
needs to be exercised.
Yeah.
How do we exercise? You have to stretch
Stretch
it.
it.
You exercise our heart by stretching it and forgiving. You're like, I can't.
Yes. You
So,
stretch
by
it.
the way, that's health.
Look at that.
That's health.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And so all these organs need to be exercised. And so
Yeah.
forgiveness is one of the ways we are able to
Stretch our heart.
stretch our hearts and
That
exercise
is
it.
powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy these shows, but today I have really enjoyed it.
I'm so glad.
You've said so many important things. Forgiveness is for the undeserving.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if you don't live with anything, because, I mean, part of being in a broken relationship is there's a part where you need to forgive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a part
that's a
where
tool.
it's a tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tool you have to
Yeah.
go with in relationships,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people will hurt you. They won't behave the
true.
same way.
That is
They'll
so
do dumb
true.
things. You'll also do dumb, and you also need
You
it.
also need
You
forgiveness.
need it.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, you also said something about the only way out of grief is through it. I know some people who dodge those emotions, and it's like, I don't want to cry. I don't want to get all emotional. And yet you need it. Your soul needs it to be cleansed.
Yeah.
So that you can be able to move on to the next relationship as a whole human being.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Evas. I think this was such a wholesome conversation.
appreciate
So much to learn, so much to glean from. Let us know what has been your takeaway from this conversation. And Blessing, I hope this show has kind of answered your question. I must emphasize, you do need professional help. Self-awareness, again, is not something that we learn in school. We probably will learn it in our adult lives. And so seeing a therapist is one way that you can learn to navigate, you know, this self-awareness journey. Thank you. Again, we enjoy hearing from you. So do let us know in our comments what you thought of this conversation. If there's anything else you'd like us to tackle, we'd be happy to sit back here again and talk about it. We'll be back next week with another topic. Until then, bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe.